Okay, so if you saw the last video, probably noticed that I'm wearing the same clothes. It's actually 5 minutes after I finished filming the previous video, and through the magic of editing, I am now 1 week ahead from the 5 minutes prior, which pretty cool. What is up, guys? Welcome back to yet another video. My name is Franco Torres and I'm a guitar player based in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And today I'm going to be talking about how to power the Quad Cortex in a little bit of a better way than the power supply that it comes with it. I'm not a huge fan of the power supply that comes with the Quad Cortex. To me, it's I get why they did it, right? It makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It's a really simple power supply. You connect it, it's 12 volt, it'll give you the 2000 milliamps, but it's not grounded. And I've got a little bit of a pet peeve with that just because of my background and a lot of stuff that I've worked with batteries and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So I was looking online for a bit before I got it last year, or actually almost 2 years now. And I came across a really cool fix that's online. You can probably find videos on it, but I thought I'd make one to explain a little bit more and explain why this is such a cool method to power the Quad Cortex. But essentially, there's two ways to power it other than, of course, using the 12 volt, power supply or DC break that comes with it. And it's actually, most of them will involve a kind of like a bigger power supply, sort of like this one, mostly like this one, to be honest, the DC7 by Cioks, or this one, which is the Eventide version of that, which is still made by Cioks. It's just instead of having the 7 variable channels, it's only got 4, which I don't care. Quite frankly, I only needed 4, and this one has 4, so that's perfect, right? Essentially, what's cool about these, and this is going to be the first way to power the Quad Cortex, right, other than the included power supply. These 4 channels, they are variable, right? And what that means is that you can change the voltage on them. Of course, you want it to be 12 volt because that's what the Quad Cortex rating's at. But essentially, what you need is a DC7 or a Powermax like this one. You'll flip the dip switches, which you can probably see there a little bit better. So you'll flip those dip switches to be set up at 12 volts each one. And you'll have to get 3 of these little flex parallel adapters, which are the little gray ones by Cioks. And so essentially what you're doing is you're combining channels 1 and 2 and channels 3 and 4. And so now these 2 are 1, now these other 2 are 1, and then you connect another flex cable into those 2 to sum down these 4 channels into 1. Now what that'll do is, obviously, you've got them all set up at 12 volts. That's really important, by the way. If you take anything away from this, make sure that they are all set to 12 volts. Yeah, you don't want to fry your Quad Cortex, right? Now, in terms of how it'll work, each channel at 12 volts with these power supplies are going to be 500 milliamps. So 500 times 4, you get the math, you get the 2000 milliamps that you need to power up the Quad Cortex. So more than enough. And then out of the other 3 channels, you've got 9 volts at 660 milliamps, which is quite a bit, actually. I'm powering not just the Quad Cortex, but 5 extra pedals, and out of those 5, I've got an RV500 by Boss, which is a little bit hungry in terms of power as well, which is pretty cool. Now, as for the second way to power something like this, it does still also require something like this power supply. Or you could potentially, do it out of a Voodoo Labs Pedal Power 3 Plus, which is really cool, or the the Strymon Suma. I'm not sure if the new Walrus Audio Canvas has that little port as well, but essentially you'll use the 24 volt power out, and what that'll do is you'll connect that into the Cioks Crux, is what it's called. So you still will need a second item for that. But the cool thing about going with that route is that Now, essentially, instead of having these four Bs for the Quad Cortex, so like, for example, if you have a bigger board and you have 10 pedals and then also the Quad Cortex, you're going to want to do it that way because you'll be able to use these extra channels to power more pedals. But essentially, coming out of that 24-volt output, you'll be able to connect to the Cioks Crux, which is a little box. I'm going to put a photo of it somewhere here so you can see it. And so that little box will actually have enough power for the Quad Cortex. So you can just get that. And I mean, in a board like this one, or rather in a bigger board, if you have more pedals, you're going to want to do it that way because that way you can power everything from the same source. And the main takeaway out of like why these two methods are going to be better than the regular one, well, one, you can power more pedals out of the whole setup, right? So like if you want to do some other stuff, I mean, mainly using kind of like some weird stuff, if you will, you know, the rainbow machine and the particle and of course the RV500 to do some glitchy stuff and some kind of like looping in a way with delay and just like all sorts of different sounds that I like. And then two pedals that I absolutely love, the Horizon and then the BB preamp, which I know this has a model of the BB preamp. Doesn't sound the same to me. I've been using this for years and you can tweak it. You can obviously capture it. I love my BB preamp and take it anywhere with me, so it's there. But of course, you can power more pedals out of it, and it's going to be a cleaner power source. The Quad Cortex, one thing that I noticed is that as soon as I plugged this in versus the adapter that it came with, I was getting way less noise, and I'd be able to get more gain out of it without having to turn on the gate on it higher than I used to. And obviously that has to be because, well, the pedal supply is grounded, unlike the one that it comes with it. And I'm, again, not trying to bash that other one. I understand why it comes with it. It's just one of those things that I do prefer having a power supply like this one or something like a 3-prong because it'll work a little bit better. But essentially, I mean, it does the job. It does what it's supposed to do. It works great, and I mean, it's a hell of a lot cleaner than the regular one is. But yeah, it'll work out great for a setup like this one or a setup of the Quad Cortex by itself. It does help in terms of like the kind of sound that you're going to be getting out of it, right? So I do highly recommend it. If you like videos like this one, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.